Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video I am going to be showing you guys my top 10 nude palettes in my collection. I was very strict with myself. It couldn't be like a nudie mauvey palette or a palette that had like one too many pops of color in it. These are true natural looking eyeshadow palettes, boring if you will, especially if you are into color. You will not find any of that here, but these are true staples for me, palettes that I can see myself reaching for on a daily basis. And even though they all have that beautiful nude natural vibe to them, some of them do have really nice fun sparkles because I personally love those. Every single one of these palettes is either high-end or luxury, and truth be told, I just don't have very good luck with drugstore palettes. I don't find that the quality is the same as when I buy high-end or luxury palettes. So if I'm going to pick favorites, I'm going to pick my true favorites, right? What I do have is a lot of variety size-wise. I have like 15 pan palettes all the way to just 4. I'm super excited to get into this video. Not every single one of these is still available because a couple of these were limited edition and are no longer around. However, everything that I can link, I will link for you down below in the comment section, or you might find it right here on the icon. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started with this video. Not related to the video at all, but I would like to point out that I've been wearing this makeup for 9 hours. And it looks this good, okay? I literally just touched up a teeny tiny bit with some translucent powder right here because I was shiny. It is hot outside. I've been sweating today. I touched up the sparkle right in the center of the eye because it wasn't looking as intense, and I just put the lipstick back on. That is all I did, and this makeup looks like I just applied it. I can't believe it. Like I said, I've been wearing it for like 9 hours, and I have been outside and sweating today. Like, what? It looks so good. Everything on my face is, of course, listed and linked down in the description box of this video, so check it out if you're interested. And I'm going to start by mentioning my all-time favorite Natasha Denona palette, which happens to be a nude palette. It has one pop of color, but it is mostly all nude. It is limited edition and it's been sold out for the longest time. Yet the other day somebody was messaging me that it is back right now on the Natasha Denona website. Hopefully it's still there by the time I upload this video. And the palette I'm talking about is, of course, the Natasha Denona Gold palette. If we are talking nude palettes, to me, this one definitely has to be included in the list. It literally has 2 teal shades, and everything else I feel like we can consider a nude. First of all, Natasha Denona outdid herself with the glimmery, shimmery shades that she put in this palette, which is one of my favorite things about it because I do love me some sparkle. This is a true party palette, if you will. It has some really nice shiny shades in there. Take a look right here at these shimmers and how fun they sparkle. I absolutely love every single one of these. They make your eyeshadow looks really fun and attention grabbing, sort of like what I'm wearing right now. And then besides the fun shimmers, this palette also has some really amazing nude shades. Let me show you the swatches here. So with this one, if you focus on the mattes and the non-sparkly shimmers, you can get beautiful everyday looks, you can get beautiful work appropriate looks, but then of course you can spice it up for evening time and nighttime with the fun sparkles that it has. It is 100%, in my opinion, the best Natasha Denona palette ever created to date. I love it that much. None of the other Natasha Denona palettes I have, and I collect Natasha Denona palettes, so I have a lot of them, none of them make me feel as passionate about them as the gold palette does, and it is 100% because of the fun sparkly shades that it has. And I'm totally going to mention other Natasha Denona palettes in this video that are also nude and that I love a lot, but disclaimer, this right here, 100% recommend. If it's still available on the Natasha Denona website, definitely grab it while it's there because this one has been sold out for probably over a year now. I don't know what the purpose is of making a palette limited edition and then just bringing it back once in a while, but I'm not going to complain about it because I would just appreciate it if you just like left it there full time. If she brought it back to Sephora and Ulta and all of that, that would be fantastic. Anyways, this palette right here, of course, had to be in this video. This is, like I said, one of my all-time favorite nude palettes. It has absolutely everything I could ask of a nude palette. It has dark shades to deepen up your eyes with. It's got the sparkles, and it's got the best, most buttery, most blendable formula. I absolutely love this one. Highly recommended is an understatement, okay? Another nude palette that I fell in love with recently, which is the one I'm wearing right now, is the only quad that I'm going to mention as part of this top 10 palettes list, and that is the new Pat McGrath Venusian Sunrise Eyeshadow Quad. As you can see right here, this one has a beautiful earthy transition color. It has this color down here that it's like a dark brown with like a hint of burgundy in it, but like not too burgundy. So I feel like this shade could still be considered a nude. And then it's got a beautiful shimmer that doesn't have sparkle really. It's just like a regular shimmer. This is the one that I have right here on the inner corner of my eye. Oops. And then of course it's got this beautiful gold sparkle that you are looking at in the center of my eyes right now. This palette is super, super pigmented. It is buttery, it is blendable. It has this incredible formula that I quite simply cannot put down. I can't stop using it. It is the newest palette that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. This one I've had for probably around exactly a month, if not less. And I have already used it in 4 different videos, if we count this one, because like I said, I can't put it down. For an eyeshadow quad, this one is also pretty versatile. I did a look where I just used these 2 shades right here, this one on my crease, this one on my eyelid, and it was like a really natural, bronzy, everyday look. But then if you deepen it up with this one or add the sparkle, you can get a really nice nighttime, fun, sexy look like the one I'm wearing today, which I absolutely love. Super versatile, super luxurious packaging, extremely luxurious formula, a really nice natural color story. Not enough good things I can say about this one. Now I would say if you go for it, make sure that you like sparkle, because I feel like one of the most fun things about this palette is definitely the sparkle. I do have some palettes in here that are not as sparkly, by the way. I have a little bit of everything in my top 10. But this one, definitely fun and exciting, and I do highly recommend it. So the third palette I'm going to show you, and by the way, I'm not showing you these in any particular order. I love them all. I can't possibly rank them. I feel like they all have like their own occasion, right? So the next one is also from Natasha Denona. It is a meaty palette, so much more affordable than the gold palette. And it is the beautiful Glam palette from Natasha. So this one has a beautiful nude color story that is much more cool toned than anything I've shown you so far, as you can see. And this one doesn't really have super sparkly shades like the one I'm wearing. This one has just regular, good old, nice shimmers, which I know a lot of you absolutely love. So take a look at the types of shimmers you can find in this one. See, these are not as sparkly. They're like your nice standard shiny shades that are still pigmented and are still blendable and are still very, very flattering, of course, on your eye. My point is, if you're someone who is not a fan of super sparkly shades, this might be one of the nude palettes that you might be looking into. It's an absolutely stunning natural nude palette, and it also has these matte shades right here that are super pigmented, very buttery and blendable, and just easy to apply. I feel like this palette here is probably Natasha Denona's most user-friendly palette. In fact, it comes with instructions. She tells you exactly what to do with each shade. As you can see right there, look at the names of the shades. They are called center eyelid, outer eyelid, inner corner, crease, transition. These are basically the instructions on how to use this palette. So not only is this palette gorgeous, not only is this palette literally perfect for any occasion, but it also has instructions written within the palette itself. So it couldn't get any easier than this. And by the way, even though it doesn't have super sparkly shades, it does have this one like extra shiny one that you can take advantage of in the center of the eyelid or the inner corner if you do want to make it pop a little bit more. By the way, I have a 5 looks 1 palette with this one that you're welcome to check out if you want to get some inspiration on other looks to do past your instructions given to you by Natasha. So check out that video if you're looking for things to do with your Natasha Denona Glam palettes. This next one I'm going to talk about is probably the oldest out of every single palette I'm mentioning today, and that is the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I feel like we can't have a natural palette video without the Soft Glam palette in it. take a look at the inside of this one here. You got some cool tone natural shades, you got a few shimmers, some mattes, you also have a few warmer shades in it. It's like a really nice balanced palette. I'm pretty sure I have a 5 Looks 1 palette with this one as well. It was probably one of the first ones I ever did. So check it out if you're interested. But this palette right here is beautiful, and I've had mine for probably 5 or 6 years now, basically since whenever it was that this palette came out. And the shades continue to be very buttery and very pigmented and very blendable. I have not seen a change in the formula throughout the years, thank God. So with this one, you can also get a bunch of really nice natural looks, and it does have maybe 1 to 2 shades that are in natural, like this reddish one up here, which I just show you a little finger swatch off. But this one makes this palette really nice and fun because you can just add a bit of it on top of any of these mattes right here, and it transforms the look in a really beautiful and flattering way. So highly recommend this one if you don't have it already. Like I said, this is the oldest palette that I'm going to talk about today, but it's definitely a palette that has stood the test of time. It's definitely a palette that still stands out in my collection, as you can see, which definitely speaks to how amazing it is, right? So love this one. This next one is probably one of the most luxurious ones I'm going to talk about today, and it is fairly new from Lisa Eldridge. Lisa Eldridge came out with eyeshadows not so long ago. I tried this one palette just to try out the formulas, and I was so impressed by how amazingly buttery these shades are. She put true cream to powder formulas in this little palette right here. As you can see, this one is natural, but it does have a couple of cooler toned shadows in it. It is a very sophisticated palette, and also a palette that is extremely easy to use. These shades right here are super creamy, like they are literal butter on my fingers. And so not only are they very pigmented and beautiful, as you can see, like I said, the shimmers look very sophisticated, but they're very easy to use because they blend like an absolute dream. It's like a powder that blends like a cream, if you will. Take a look at how I was able to diffuse that matte gray shade. Here's the lightest taupey one, and how you can blend it out to like be almost nothing. Like, it's a very user-friendly palette if you're someone starting out with makeup, if bigger palettes overwhelm you or anything like that. These are palettes that you can count on to get you beautiful, sophisticated looks. You can look very put together, and it only takes 2 to 3 steps, and the palette's formula will basically do the job for you. You just have to grab a brush and just like wiggle it around a little bit, and the shade will be blended out before your eyes without you having to stress about having a perfect technique to blend out the shadow, if that makes sense. Long story short, I fell in love with these beautiful Lisa Eldridge palettes when they came out. I hope that she continues to extend on her palette line. I'll definitely pick some other ones in the future if I see any color story that interests me. I went for this one because it was the one that stood out to me the most. It was one that I knew would stand out in my collection. And look at it here, standing out as one of my top 10 nude palettes. One more thing about this one is that this one has a truly luxurious packaging as well. So I know I'm going to say this about every single one of these, but I love it. I highly recommend it. These types of videos are meant for you to kind of feel identified to like what I'm describing, I feel like. And if you're someone who doesn't like shimmers, you know what nude palette to go for. Or if you're someone who loves sparkles, you know what palette to go for. Or if you want something travel friendly and sophisticated, you'll know what palette to go for. So I really hope that these are still helpful. I definitely love making videos like this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and if you've liked this video so far, please give it a thumbs up before you leave. Let's keep going. We have 5 down, 5 to go. This next one will probably break your heart because last time I checked, this was discontinued. This palette no longer available. They did say it was limited edition when it came out, but then it kind of lingered on the Sephora website for a bit, but it is gone. I was going to recommend it during the Sephora Spring Savings event. Not there at all. Anyways, the palette I'm talking about is the Ethereal Eyes palette from Makeup by Mario. This was literally the first palette I thought of when I decided to make this video, because when I think of a nude eyeshadow palette, this is 100% the color story that comes to mind for me. Now, With this palette, Mario did two things. He brought us a fantastic palette that is perfection for nude makeup lovers, and he also improved his eyeshadow formula. So in this palette, you will find creamy, pigmented, blendable, beautiful matte shades like these right here. Very easy to use, to diffuse. These are more on like the soft powdery side rather than the creamy side, since we were just talking about Lisa Eldridge, so that you can kind of compare. But they still blend out very, very easily, which in my opinion also makes it easy to use. And in fact, I pretty much find all of these palettes easy to use because the formulas are beautiful, right? The most easy to use is probably the Lisa Eldridge one, but I do love the formula of all of them. So a bit more of a powdery, soft formula. The shades blend beautifully into one another. I love starting with the lighter colors and then just building up intensity. My other favorite thing about this palette is that he didn't only give us shimmer shades, he gave us some sparkly shades, and these shades have this beautiful micro sparkle situation going for it that make your eyes look ethereal, like the name of the palette suggests, because it's not a chunky glitter, it's not a too in your face type of shimmer. It's like this delicate fairy dusting on your eye, if you will, that I find absolutely flattering. This is definitely one of those that I use more off camera than on camera, because it's one that is just very easy to grab if I'm going to leave my house for anything, you know? Anyways, I love this one, and I do really wish that Mario would have left it as a permanent part of his collection, because in my opinion, this is the best thing that the Mario line has ever had. There's nothing else I've tried from his brand that I like as much as this palette. So I feel like this right here should be the permanent thing, and everything else should be limited edition. Since we're talking about palettes that are easy to reach for off camera, let me tell you about this next one. And I know I've recommended this one 1,000 times to you, but I am still obsessed with it, and it is a nude palette, so of course I had to pick it up for this video. And the palette I'm talking about is this one right here. Now technically this is a face and eyes palette, but it still has an eyeshadow palette in there, so I am putting it in this video. This palette is from Natasha Denona, as you can see, and it is extremely travel friendly. Whenever I'm leaving my house for anything, this one is definitely coming with me. With only these 5 nude shades right here, I can create a variety of nude eyeshadow looks. By the way, in this palette, Natasha also gave us some really fun metallic colors. These are not as glittery glimmery as the shades in the gold palette, but they are very metallic shades, which also make these very, very shiny. Anyways, so I combine these 2 shades right here if I'm going to do a look that is just a step up from one shade. And then we could go all the way to as dark as the color Smoke here if we want to intensify things a bit. Even though it's a pretty basic, natural color story, I find myself being able to do a lot of my favorite looks with a palette like this one. Plus this one also has a blush and a highlighter, which when I'm traveling and I'm bringing in the bare minimum amount of makeup always comes in handy, as does the mirror. And whenever I wear this palette in a video, everybody wants to know what it is. So I'm definitely confident in the performance of it and in the fact that it is very flattering on me. Another staple natural eyeshadow palette, and this one, thank God, was not limited edition, it's still available, is this one here from Patrick Ta Beauty. This is the Major Dimension eyeshadow palette, the first eyeshadow palette that Patrick Ta ever came out with. And as you can see, this one has a really stunning natural color story with a beautiful variety of depth in the matte shades, which I absolutely love. I love how rich and pigmented this goes. Of course, the formula, amazing, just as everything I've talked about in this video. And then it also has cream shades down here, which I actually really like and appreciate. I feel like they bring a different flair to this palette. They make the palette interesting. You can use them to intensify, or you can use them as a base, and every single one of these powders performs so good when put on top of the creams. Besides that, if you want your look to not be very glittery, you can add either this one or this one here to the center of the eyelid and go for a very natural everyday look. Or if you want a bit of sparkle, a bit of fun, you can add one of these shimmers to the eye look and make it a bit more fun, a bit more interesting. a bit more fairy-like. You guys know I love my sparkle on my eyes, so I always go for those shades. I don't think I have a 5NUX1 palette with this one, but I did do 3 different looks with it when I reviewed it. So if you have it and you're looking for inspiration, highly recommend that you watch that video. And so this right here was palette number 7. So only 2 palettes to go, and the next one I wanted to talk about has only 6 shades, and it is beautiful and rich and pigmented and luxurious looking and just very girly as well. It's like a perfect bridal type of nude palette, right? And it is this one here from Wayne Goss. This is the only Wayne Goss palette I own, if I remember correctly, and it has a beautiful, beautiful, very natural color story. I questioned myself on putting this one in this video because it does have like a pink right there, but I honestly figured it would be okay. This palette is luxurious, the packaging is great, it is also very travel friendly, and as every palette I've mentioned in today's video, it of course has a fantastic formula. Take a look right here at the finger swatches of this one. This one has a very soft powder formula that blends beautifully, and it is very easy to use. As you can see, it has a regular shimmer that doesn't have too much sparkle in it, and then it has this sparkly color right here that you can use on its own or you can use as a topper. This palette could be a very like fuzz-free, perfect everyday palette, your like everyday work palette if you're into this color story. This is another one of those that if you are someone who prefers smaller palettes will absolutely love. I feel like I have done this palette a disservice myself. I feel like I need to use it more, so I'm going to like pull it out and put it a bit closer to me so that I hopefully start reaching for it a bit more often, because I definitely need to. This palette is incredible. I should use it more. And we only have 1 palette to go. I've been mentioning throughout the video whether a palette has a soft shimmer, an ethereal type of shimmer, or a glittery, sparkly type of color in it, right? And this next one doesn't have any shimmer at all. It is an all matte palette. It is an all matte nude natural palette that I absolutely love. And it is from a brand that you might be surprised I haven't mentioned yet, and that is Pat McGrath. I feel like in every top 10 video of any category I've ever done, I always have at least 2 Pat McGrath palettes. But because this is a truly like nude, neutral type of challenge, every single Pat McGrath palette I thought maybe had a bit too much color in it. Like the most natural looking one to me was Mothership number 1, but then it has a very intense blue shade, and it has like ethereal shades that are like bluish duochrome type of shade, so I didn't qualify it as a natural nude palette. But this one here I did. The palette I'm talking about, which by the way you can get 30% off on the Pat McGrath website right now if the sale hasn't ended, is this one right here, which is one of her latest releases. This is from the Love collection that came out back in February, and this palette is called Velvet Liaison, and it has these absolutely stunning natural shades in it. Now, maybe calling this one natural might be a bit of a stretch, but because all of the shades are matte, I just figured I was within the window of possibility of getting a Pat McGrath palette in this video. So hopefully nobody's mad. I know that there is like a couple of more mauve shades. There is this one that has a bit more warmth in it, but I feel like all in all, once these colors are like blended out on your eyes, all of these still look really, really natural, right? So the reason I love this palette is, of course, the Pat McGrath formula, the fact that it is velvety and soft and richly pigmented. Here's 5 of the shades swatched. And also, I was going to say, the fact that even though this is an all matte palette, you still have a lot of variety within this color story. There's a lot of different little eye looks that you can do with this one if you combine your shades right. First of all, this color right here on my thumb, obviously the perfect transition color, and you can combine it with any one of these 5 shades and create 5 completely different looks with it, because every one of these is, in my opinion, different enough. You also have this really dark brown matte right here that you can use to deepen up any of the shades I talked about. You have this light nude shade right here, vanilla shade right here, that you can use in the center of the eyelid if you don't want to add any sparkle. If you have a collection of single shadows, I find that this is the perfect palette to use with single shadows, because you can create any type of natural look you want with it, and then just add that pop of sparkle to the center of the eyelid. That looks so flattering. Or if you have like eyeshadow palettes that are like all shimmer or all glitter, I find that this all matte palette is the perfect palette to combine with those. I would love to know if you think that calling this one a nude natural palette is a stretch, or if I get a pass. Because this one was the one that I was like, I don't know if I'm pushing the limit, but I was so good about keeping this video truly nude natural. Let me tell you a story. I have it right here because I wanted to show you. I really badly wanted to mention this next palette in this video. By the way, what I just mentioned to you, those were my top 10 nude natural eyeshadow palettes in my collection. Absolutely love every single one of them. The formulas are incredible and you get the most flattering natural looks with those palettes, right? So this next one I'm going to mention, which is not technically mentioned in this video, if you will, like it's not part of my top 10. I wanted to put it in my top 10 so freaking bad because it is a stunning palette with a stunning formula, and it's literally called Nearly Natural, right? But the nearly thing means it's got greens and it's got mauves, and so I was like, that is not natural enough. People will come at you if you put that in a natural nude palette video. And so this was one of the ones that I took out. Whenever I do these videos, I literally pull out like any palette that kind of matches the color story I have in mind, and I put them all on my table, and then I pick my top 10 out of them. So when I was pulling out my nude natural palettes, I had like 14 palettes out, and this right here was definitely one of them. But because it is nearly natural and not quite a natural palette, this one didn't make the cut. But I wanted to still show you it because it is such a pretty palette. Anyways, I really hope that you guys liked this video and that you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you want to get any of the palettes I mentioned in today's video, especially those of them that are still available. You can find the links to them down below in the description box of the video, or you can find some of the links right here on the icon as well. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching today's video. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please don't leave without subscribing. This is all I got today. Here's a couple other videos I've done like this one with different color stories if you're interested. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.